much done. I want to get us to the point that we would have been at the end of last week if the hinges hadn't caused so many problems. But what I want to do is I want to cover our cover, and I want to put the hinges in so that we can leave that to dry until next week. And then if we get a chance, I would like to make the base pages if possible. So because we've only got an hour, I think we might get started. Now I'm going to shock you all because I know that you love the bright colours of this book, and I know that that has what has caught your eye, and this is what you're wanting to make. But I'm going to show you that this book can be made with absolutely any papers. So I'm going to use these. I've had them for ages and I've been waiting for something to use them for, because I like the idea of using photographic papers. So I'm going to use these, see how it works out. Hi Beatrice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover my cover in patterned paper like I have done on this book. However, if you haven't got your papers yet, or you don't know which papers you're going to use, hi Anne, hi Wendy, cover it in your base card colour, which might be black or might be white or whatever you're using, and then add your pattern papers on afterwards, just like you would mat a normal page inside a book. Okay, now because on that book look at this, because I she's gonna put me off, because I covered my whole outside cover in pattern paper. That's what I'm going to do again. So what I need to do now is just choose a couple of pieces of pattern paper that I want to use for the outside. Now what I choose for the back will be interesting, because obviously they're for the back and you might see them, but just bear in mind that what you use on the front, hi Alison, I've put a shaker pocket on mine. You don't have to, but I've put a shaker pocket on mine, she says. So most of what I put on the front there is going to be covered up. So it doesn't matter too much what I use on the front, if you see what I mean. So I'm just going to choose something. Let's have a look. Like that. Oh no, it's Loki. Another cat has arrived. I'm going to use that one. I'm going to use that one on the back. And I'm going to use that one on the front at the moment. So I just want to show you that it doesn't matter what sort of papers you use, your book will still look really cool. So I don't need them as big as this, I don't think. What size? I can't remember what size the book was. I'm just going to cut these a little bit bigger. So I'm going to cut it, say 8 by 10.5. Let me just grab my trimmer. Oh, just using Martha to lean things on. So let's see, 10.5 by 8. Did I say 8? I did, didn't I? Perhaps, thank you. 10.5 by 8. Sorry, Marth. I'm going to put this one on the back. I don't know whether it makes any difference to you guys, but I'm actually left-handed, and people seem to think I have my trimmer upside down. So if it does look odd to you, that's probably why. Right, so I'm going to put that on the front because I'm going to cover a lot of it up with my shaker pocket, and then I'm going to put that one on the back. So the way that I cover my books is I'm going to lay it down flat, and I'm going to use double-sided tape. Now, I'm not a huge lover of double-sided tape, but it does have its uses, and this is one of them. Now, normally I use double-sided tape that's about 2.5 inches wide to do this, but I know that not everybody's got that, so I'm going to use just ordinary double-sided tape. And a couple of tips before we start. We're not going to cover the spine this very second. We're going to cover well, that'll be the back and the front of the book. You can see here, this is where my spine meets my covers. I don't want to cover that bit of the spine where it folds in the double-sided tape, because that will make your paper crack. It kind of pulls too much. Serena, hold on. The book measures 6.5 by 8.25. That sounds not right. I can't remember. Hold on. Oh, all the way round. Oh no, yep, 6.5 by 8.25. So what I'm going to do with my double-sided tape now is I'm going to just lie it down on top of my Tyvek and my chipboard, my grey board, depending on whereabouts you are in the world is what you call it. And I'm just going to lay it down. I don't have to have these pieces flush with each other. Far from it. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap between them. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but I prefer to use tape on this part of the book than wet glue, because I like my covers to be super flat. Now I am going to put that tape up to that, right up to that edge there, and I'm going to do the same over this side. So I am not going to cover up where the spine meets the book there. I'm just going to cover up the other bits of the book there. Okay. So this is the outside of the book that I'm looking at. Just my Tyvek's always gone on the outside. And just remember that when you're doing this, that your left hand side is your back and your right hand side is the front. So now I'm just going to take off the double-sided tape, take off the cover. And although I've got absolutely rubbish nails compared to some of the ladies who make books, they're quite good. Oops, at getting tape off. A bit too good sometimes. I'll do that one in a minute. Shouldn't have said that now, I've jinxed it. Okay, so this, I'm only taking off half at the moment, and this is going to be the front of my book. Right, let's take that off. So this is going to be my front paper. So I'm going to turn it over. Keep it relatively straight. I'm just going to stand up to do this because I want to look down on it. And I'm going to attach the front of my book to this to the pattern paper, not quite up to the edge where the spine meets the page, but nearly. So if you can see there, there's sort of like 1/8 of an inch. Okay, I'm just going to turn that over and just make sure that's flattened down, and then I'm going to do exactly the same on the back bit. Martha's being very well behaved. Okay, and I'm going to do exactly the same. So this is the back of my book. Lie my paper down. And I'm just going to make sure that that's straight-ish. Okay, right, so that's the front and back of my book. Now I'm going to fold these over. Now there's 101 ways of mitering corners, and you do whatever works for you. Me, I bodge it a bit, but I tend to just cut and mite of the corners like that, but I leave about 1/4 of an inch gap. Okay, and then I start by folding the ends over onto that bit of the book. So what I need to do first of all is train my paper to go, because paper is made out of fibres and we need the fibres to learn how we want them to sit. So I'm just going to fold that over, and I'm going to use a bone folder just to make sure that I get a really good sharp crease there before I start to fold. Okay, so I've got a good sharp crease. Now when I glue this down, I always use wet glue on my books. Yes, Serena, absolutely they would. I usually use double-sided tape that's really wide, just because it's quick. So I'm just going to pop a little piece of double-sided tape there, because although I'm going to use wet glue to stick this down, I want that to hold while it's drying, so I don't have to faff around with it too much. So now I'm just going to put a little bit of glue, and I'm going to fold that over and make sure that's in place and well burnished. Okay, so I've got a nice sharp edge there, you can see. Now I'm going to turn that over. Hi Mary Noel. And I'm going to do exactly the same. So I'm just going to train the paper where I want it to go. I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to use my bone folder just to make sure that I've got a good sharp edge there. A little bit of double-sided tape. And some wet glue. Right. I'm going to glue that down. Okay, so that's the edges done there. They're nice and sharp. Okay, hi Tracy, hi Charmaine. Now what I'm going to do is fold these over. Now like I said, there's 101 ways of folding these corners. I like to use my bone folder just to get a good sharp crease in there, but then I like to just slightly angle it with my finger and then use my bone folder just to give me a slightly angled crease. I don't know if you can see that that is slightly angled, so that when I fold it over, hi Kathy, it's not going to be pointing off the edge of my card. So let me just train that where I want it to go, and I'm going to fold that up, and this is where I have to burnish really well, especially into that corner, because I don't want it too lumpy. If it's too lumpy, I might trim a bit off, but I want it really tight and tidy. Okay, so I don't know if you can see there that that corner just goes in slightly, and I might just trim it. Now, like I said, there are 101 ways to do this. That's just the way that I do it. It just works for me. Right, a little bit of double-sided tape. Oh, look at Marfie. You can just see her nose.
Watching intently.
Oh, I don't know. I think she's going to sleep. Right, there's a bit of glue in that corner.
No, she's watching.
Oh, she is watching. Right, let's glue that down. Make sure that's stuck really, really well, and get it as flat as you possibly can, because that will mean that anything that we put on top of our book later will have a nice flat base to work from. So if you have a look at that corner there, I've got a perfect right angle. Okay, So there are 101 ways to do this, but that just works for me. So I'm going to do the same on this side. Push that in, but just make sure that I've got it at a bit of an angle. This isn't the quickest job in the world, because at the end of the day, this is really important to how your book looks. So skimping on time here, you're not going to have the flattest book in the world. Okay. Right. Hi, Darlene. Are you crafting on the stove again? Hi, Donna. Okay. Well, she's not a perfect crafty companion, Kathy, because she sits on stuff that I don't want her to sit on. And this morning she walked all the way across the laptop, which wasn't good. Right, so there you go. That's all done. That's all tidy. And I've got perfect right angle corners there. So I'm happy with that. That's going to be the front of my book. Now I'm going to do the back. So I'm just going to push my bone folder in there. Fold that in slightly so that I get it at a bit of an angle. And I'm going to train my card, my pattern paper, to go round. Tidy that up a bit. She's snoring. Can you hear her? Silently judging me, she is. Oh, too much glue. Ugh. So all you Brits, are you all ready for tomorrow? Or is everybody celebrating VE Day, or is it just here? I've got a little costume I'm going to dress up in. Might post a picture. We'll see how I feel. Okay, last one to do. I'll fold that in slightly. Never be afraid to bodge something. I think people look at my books and think, oh, you know, doesn't make a mistake, everything's done perfectly. Is it? Heck. That's half the fun, is making the mistakes and covering them up. I always say there's no such thing as a mistake. There is just an opportunity to embellish. So embrace the mistakes, I say. Oh, you're dressing up as Britannia, Marie Noel, or are you suggesting I was? I'm not. I've got some very 1940s jeans and a red spotty blouse and a red spotty headband. I've just got to learn how to do my hair in rolls. It's VE Day, D. 75 years, yes. Is it? Yes. Hi, Kerry. Yeah, 75 years since VE Day. It's a victory in Europe. And we've got a day off work, bank holiday. And even though we can't get together because obviously we're still on lockdown, we are still celebrating at home. Right, so there we go. So that's the front cover and the back cover of my book, and I'm happy with that. But now I need to cover up my spine. So I need to find some paper, which I've put safe and lost. What shall I use? I'd like something that's a bit of a, maybe a bit of a contrast. Although I'm almost tempted to use a plain think I might use that. Right, so for my spine piece, for me, because obviously you can cut this as wide or as little as you like, I'm going to cut it at 5 inches by 10¼ inches. So what did I say, Mark? 5 by 10¼ Oh good, I'm glad you're listening. Actually, I might do that at 5½. Oh no, 5 and a bit. It's too near his nose otherwise. And I'm actually going to ink the edge of this because I want it to be very clear that this is the spine covering and not part of the front and back, as it were. So I'm just edging in black, and I'm going to pop that on there like that. So what I need to do, a little tip for you here, is these bits that stick on, I find if we just put tape on there, they don't stick properly. So I'm just going to add some double-sided tape near to it. And then in the middle, to avoid where I've put the gaps. Oh, Sue, that's lovely. Oh, you must send me a picture. Now, bear in mind that when I put my book down, I've got 1 inch top and bottom that's going to be overlapping, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to be quite careful about where I put my glue. So I've just knocked off the picture, so I don't know what's going on now. Hang on, guys. Sorry, just let me get you back. Okay. And I'm just going to put a bead of glue up to that edge as near as I can. If I didn't mind having glue on my fingers, I would put glue on my finger. I would squidge it out to the edge, but I hate having glue on my fingers. I actually just can't bear it. So I'm just going to put it up to the edge. Okay, now you might find it useful to use a mat with lines on for this bit. So first of all, don't do what I did yesterday. Make sure you've got it the right way up. And I'm going to line that up on my mat, she says, and I've glued myself to it. I'm going to grab my book, make sure I've got it the right way up. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to eyeball it left to right, but I'm going to make sure that it's going on straight. I'll find it quite useful to use a mat to help me do that. Okay. Right, so let me turn that over. Now, I don't want you yet to fold this book at all.
No.
Just leave it flat. Very, very important. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to fold over this paper and glue it down. Oh, thanks, Martha. So use your bone folder to get a really good crease. Little bit of double-sided tape. How are we doing for time? All right. And some glue. And we're going to fold that over like that. Okay. Oh, dirty fingers. And we're going to do exactly the same on the other side. So I'm going to train that paper over. Luckily this paper is actually quite thin, which makes life quite a lot simpler. I don't have to do too much hard work when it comes to folding. I'm just going to stick a little bit of wet glue on there. Sue, send me a photo of him. He sounds like quite an amazing guy. Right, so that is the cover of my book done. So if I turn it over, you can see that that is relatively straight. Actually, it's surprisingly straight. Sometimes I amaze even myself. And I've got my back cover, my spine done, and my front. I am not going to fold this, okay? Please don't fold it. Right, now the tricky bit. Charmaine last night, she took over the class, I tell you. She just rolled on her back across everything I was doing and totally stole the show. Right, here's my spine and my hinges that we did last week. Do you remember all the trouble that we had over the 3/4 of an inch hinges? And what I want to do now is put these onto my book. So I'm going to measure and make a little mark where the middle of my spine is, because that will help me to line up my hinges exactly. So I can't remember how wide the spine was. You think I'd know this stuff. 2.5. Half of 2.5 is, what's half of 2.5, Mark? 1.25. So I'm just going to mark 1.25 inches with a pencil. Oh, Martha's now eating the tape. She's got a thing about plastic. 1.25 inches so I can see. Now that mark that I've made will line up with the middle of the gusset between the 2 hinges. So I've got 2 hinges on this side and 2 hinges on this side. At this point, it might pay you to have them flat, or as flat as they will go. So when I come to glue these onto here, I'm going to want this spot that I've made to line up with, oh, Martha's on the move. You go in.
Yeah,
oh, there you go. She's gone. With the middle of that gusset. Okay, so if I glue that on there now, that should be about right. Now bear in mind that our wings are slightly different sizes. That was just for ease of cutting. It doesn't matter whether they are or not. But getting this flat and glued on well is really, really important. And we are going to leave it a week to dry flat before we even think about closing the book up. Normally I'd leave it overnight, but obviously because we're not getting together for a week, we're going to leave it for a week, which is even better. So how do I attach my hinge to my book? Let me just put this to one side. Now I want this to glue, but I want it to glue quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of double-sided tape, which will keep this stuck down to the book. But the secret is in, I'll put that on in a minute, is in the glue. So let me just take that tape off. Just put some tape there. And I'm going to make sure that I put plenty of wet glue all the way around my hinges and the wings. And this is really, really important, that in between our hinges, these bits that you can see here, we need to make sure we've got plenty of wet glue, because these need to attach to our spine. Otherwise they're going to come loose and your book's going to look lumpy, and there is nothing worse than a lumpy book. Okay, right, so as you see, I'm not skimping on the glue. Here's my book, doesn't matter which way up it is, but I've got my marks, as I mentioned, top to bottom. I'm going to stand up and I am going to lie this down. You're going to get the top of my head, guys. I'm really sorry, but if I don't get this right, none of it's going to fit. And I'm just going to make sure that that fits in the middle, top to bottom, and left to right, and is straight. On my book. Okay, so before I really get heavy on it, oh my god, my grey hair. Terrible grey. Right, this is what lockdown does to you. So as you can see, the middle of that, the middle of that gusset there is at my halfway point on the spine, and the same there, but I've got the same distance top to bottom. So I need to make sure now that this is stuck down beyond well. So I'm going to get my bone folder and I am going to burnish it to within an inch of its life, because I need this to be stuck down so well. If bits of glue come out, bits of glue come out. But you need to get in those gussets, ladies, and you need to give it a real, oh God, you need to give it a real good rub with your bone folder. I can't believe I'm saying that, but you do. God, it's filthy. Please tell me there's no children watching. Okay, so make sure that that is burnished really well, because we want the spine to be flat. Can you see? We want the hinges to be flat to our book. Okay? Is that all right? I'm sorry if I've just offended anybody. If you like that sort of talk, come on one of my retreats. And it's usually not me that's starting it. Thanks, Anne. That's helpful. But you're right. Sticky gussets are not.
She needs to come to me.
Good. Yeah, we need to get you down south, Anne. Oh, Dee, not that I'm jealous or anything. You can tell it's getting warm here in England.
Yeah, I've just said it was hot.
And this is why I'm making this, because I just like snow. Mark and I are desperate to live somewhere where it snows all year round. We love the snow.
We do.
Ah, dear. So, make sure that you give your gussets a good rub. Oh. I hope you didn't, Ellie. Because you've got to get them to stick real good, girls. Really important. And you can come back every so often and just give it a little rub, because it keeps it nice and tight. And anyway, moving swiftly on, we're going to put that to one side up for a week. If you're making books on your own, you know, and we were doing it quickly, then I'd say just overnight. But there we go. That's the absolute worst of this book over, okay? So I'm just going to put that to one side, and I'm wondering, yes, we have got time. So what I want to do now is I want to make our base pages. And when I say base pages, what I'm talking about is these 4 pages that go into our book here are exactly the same underneath. A bit like us, really. We're all the same underneath, aren't we? That was very deep and philosophical. Much better than sticky gussets. I can do philosophical as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make those base pages, so that next week what I want to do is start building them up, putting bits on them, and then I'm going to send you off to decorate them. That will be your homework, okay? Hi, Alison. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make the base pages. So if you've still got last week's cutting guide, I want you to get 8 sheets of A4 card, or whatever size card you're using. I'm using British size A4, she says. I did have some earlier. And I'm going to want 8 sheets. I'm going to cut 4 sheets of this at 6 by 8 inches. Okay. So English A4, I'm only going to get 1 out of a page, I think. Yeah. So this bit, I'm going to keep it because that's going to come in useful for things like photo mats. So I'm going to put that to one side. I'm a great believer in not letting things go to waste. So I want 4 at 6 by 8. Okay, and now I want another 4 at 6 by 9. I can't remember what I was doing. 6 by 9, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. 4 by 4 of 6.
Oh, that's 6 by
9. Okay, last one. So 4 of 6 by 9. Now we might need our trimmer again in a minute, so don't put it away too far. Okay, I always say try and keep your bits of your cuts of card until you've done, because you never know. These make nice little, you know, if you're using like really tiny photo mats, if you're using like 3 by 2 photos or something, they're always nice to have. So I always keep them because you never know. Right, so get your scoreboards, please. And I want you to take the first 4. We're not going to score those at all, so we can put those to one side. And we've got our 4 pieces, which are 6 by 9. Now we're going to score on the 9-inch side, which means that we've got the 9-inch side at the top of our scoreboard. And we're going to score on the 9-inch side at 1/2 inch and at 8.5 inches. And we're going to do that on every one of our pieces of card. So on the 9-inch side, we're scoring at 1/2 inch and at 8.5 inches. So what we've got is 2 parallel score lines, okay? So 1/2 inch and 8.5 inches. Right, so grab your bone folder. Let me get my big boner out. Oh, I've lost it. Oh no. Oh, here it is. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold on those score lines to make 2 flaps like that. Tracy, how rude can I get? Okay, so that's all we're going to do with those flaps. And we're going to get our bone folder and we are going to burnish those down. I like to burnish them on both sides. Ooh. And we're going to do that on all 4. Bye, Kathy. See you later. Obviously, this class will remain in the group once we're done, so you can go back and check it out. I'll get Mark to download it, and at some point I'll get round to editing it and putting it up on YouTube as well. But I'm thinking it's going to remain in the group anyway, so that's all good. Right. Okay. Right. So we've got these two folded flaps here. Now, these bits that we're not scoring, you've got a choice, but I'll tell you the way that I do it. You can either attach these on top of those flaps there, like that, and glue them on, or you can do it the way that I like to do it, and I'll explain why. I want that to slip inside, which means I have to trim it slightly, which is fine, but I want that to slip inside those flaps. And the reason being is that when I'm looking at the top of my pages, I like to see the fold rather than the fold and the bit that's sticking on top. It's a personal taste thing, and I just think it looks a bit tidier, so that's why that's my personal choice. So I'm just going to grab my trimmer, and I'm just going to cut about 1/8 of an inch or so off those non-scored pieces. And I'll just check before I put it away that that now slides in, which it does perfectly. Okay. Right. So now I know that that piece of card just slips into that page there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue on here, on the inside of that flap, and on the inside of that flap, slot in this bit and fold it over. And what that will leave us with is a page that has two sides, but it also has two openings, and that is going to be really important because that gives us a way to attach our pages into our book, but it also means that we've got an opening where we can attach all sorts of goodies like tags and stuff. So they're all made in exactly the same way. I'm just going to unflatten that a little bit, and I'm just going to add some glue onto the inside of my flaps, because you've got to have sticky flaps. Make sure that's lined up, and I'm going to glue that down there. I'm just going to use my bone folder just to make sure that I've got it stuck down really well. So this is my page. Louise, as far as I know, she did. I think she slept half of it this morning. Unfortunately, she doesn't. She lives down near London, and she was coming up this weekend to celebrate, and she can't, obviously, because of the circumstances. So we'll have to plan something for another weekend for her. But I think, you know, she's a bit. She likes her own company, so she spent her day on her computer because she's got some time off from work. So I think she probably has had a nice day. So here's our page. So simple to do. We've got our flat side, which for me is always going to be the front. We've got the back side, which has got the flaps on. But when we look at the top of it, we've actually just got one fold over, which I think looks a whole lot tidier than, say, sticking that on top. But it is, it's personal opinion. You might not, that might be a look that you really like, and that's absolutely fine. But that's how I do it. So I'm just going to pop these to one side to dry, and I'm going to do the same with every single one of my pages. And then we've got our 4 base pages made. And that is all I want to achieve this week. Next week, we're going to have a look at making our pages interesting. And we'll maybe, if we get chance, have a look at folding our cover and maybe putting some pockets on the inside. when we finish, we will be putting a very fancy waterfall. If you remember, on the back of the book here, we've got this flippy flappy, which I still haven't finished. Look at this. We've got this flippy flappy waterfall here, which I really should mat, because I keep showing you that I'm not matting it. We'll do that, but that will probably be the last thing that we do. It's much easier than you think to make a proper flippy flappy waterfall. Okay, so let's fold that over. Haven't lined that up very well. Let's try that again. It's better. Oops, didn't see that bit. And the last one. So we're getting on great guns with this. I'm very impressed with how much we've managed to achieve tonight. So I even did wonder at one point, well, whether we'd even get this bit done.
We did have Martha's help.
Well, yes, we did have Martha's help. She's made all the difference.
I have put a picture of her in.
Oh, there's a picture of Martha helping. You can put it up in this group. People want to see it. That Mark's put up. But you'll find, obviously, that if the cats do tend to make quite a few appearances in the classes. Okay, so I've got my 4 base pages made. So, well done. We've achieved an awful lot tonight. So we've got our base pages. Hold on. We've covered our book, and we have added our hinges. But like I said, do keep going back over them, because it is so important that these gussets are absolutely stuck flat to the spine of our book. I can't tell you how important that is.
Do not fold.
So make sure that they're flat. I love this. He listens to me. Very unusual man.
Okay.
I said, you're a very unusual... but don't fold it. We're going to do that next week, and I'm going to show you how to do it so that if there is a risk of your paper cracking, it shouldn't happen. Okay? Right, guys, thank you very, very much indeed for joining me. For those of you in the UK, we'll go and do our clap for carers now. And I wish you a very happy bank holiday tomorrow, and a wonderful, thoughtful and peaceful VE day. And I will see you all at 7 o'clock in here next Thursday, and I shall look forward to it. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you all really soon. Night night.